right, we're beginning this morning with sports. Since independence, Nigeria has recorded some great sports achievement. But some former athletes and administrators tell Solomon Ajiziogu their opinion on the country's most memorable sports achievement.
56 years is a long time in the life of a country to make appreciable impact in sports. And Nigeria's sports teams have given the people memorable times on the biggest stages in athletics, boxing, football, and other sports.
What's the biggest sporting event that we go to? Olympics. And then, what have we done at the Olympics? Chioma Ajua in the long jump and the male football team in Atlanta.
Our debut in 1985 Junior World Cup. If you go by, maybe our debut also at Atlanta Olympics in soccer.
The last Olympics we went to was not a very good one. But there's one memorable thing that happened there. The first time we will get quadruple, I don't know quadruple, but that was the main point.
The past 3 years have been a trying time for the country's #1 sport, football. For 2 consecutive editions, 2015 and 2017, Nigeria is not at the Africa Cup of Nations, a tournament the Super Eagles won in 2013 for the 3rd time. And after a historic back-to-back 5th-time record victories in 2013 and 2015, the Golden Eaglets will not be at the next FIFA Under-17 World Cup in 2017.
I think the most outstanding achievement Nigeria has been able to do since 1960 was 1996 when they were able to win 2 gold medals in Atlanta 96 Olympic Games.
The 1980 Nations Cup here at the National Stadium. I was at the stadium a night before, and lifting that trophy, as at that time by Christian Chukwu, it remains in my mind the memorable time.
When I lifted that trophy on behalf of 175 million Nigeria in Tunisia last year in AfroBaskets, that was one of the biggest moments. And before then, my best moment before then was when I won the gold, the first time gold ever for Nigeria in any basketball event, which was 2011 in Maputo.
There were times that even when Nigerian athletes were not taking first place, they were competing with the best on the track, the field, and on the courts. Nigeria will celebrate with optimism of many more years to rise in her full capacity to attain her potential in sports. Solomon Ajiziogu, TVC News.
All right, joining us in the studio is a sports journalist, Kunle Solaja. Many thanks for joining us.
Good morning.
1960 and 2000, between 1960 and 2016, that's 56 years.
Yeah.
But in 1963, the National Sporting Commission was established. And of course, between that time, the first Olympic Games, which Nigeria was represented in Mexico, 64. Was in 1968. Between then and now, quite a lot of foundations have been laid. Perhaps it's time to look at the achievement. What would you say?
First and foremost, we were in Tokyo 1964 also, the Olympics. But the summary of our sports since from 60 to now is that, well, on one side, one could say fluctuating fortunes. But in another breath, one will say we are just in a state of doldrums. We are not moving forward, we are stagnant. And that's the tragedy of Nigerian sports today. We don't know where we are coming from, or we could say we know where we are coming from, we know where we are, we don't know where we are going. That's the situation of Nigerian sports. Because at the earliest stage of our independence, sports was growing, but the speed may not be that much, but sports was growing, and it also has a federal might. I remember going through the archives, the nationwide broadcast by the then president of Nigeria, Dr. Nnamdi Azikiwe. He made sports on January 1st, 1964. He made sports the keynote of his New Year address, when he said that the state of that we need to use sports as a way of promoting our image internationally. and that we have adopted a situation whereby we see participation in sports as just the ultimate. And that is one error that we have imbibed in our innocence, because the British told us that, oh, it's more honorable to just participate. But then, if participation is just all it is, why do you need to have a scoreboard? Why do you need to award gold medals, silver or bronze for participants? We should just have given everybody certificate of participation. But in those days, you could still talk about some athletes that were notable. The David Ojokes. There are so many of them. You talk of Mayegun in boxing. Even when you go into professional boxing, you talk of the Ogambasi. You talk of the Tiger. But where is Nigeria today in boxing? When you talk of athletics, athletics means track and field. In fact, we have so narrowed our scope that athletics in Nigeria just means the short distance races. Track and field is off it. And don't forget, it was in track and field that we first got our first medal in the Olympics when Chioma Ajunwa jumped. But today, nobody is talking about that area of sports. With Yusuf Ali and co, we have forgotten about the field events. Even on the tracks, our scope is being narrowed every year. That we just say, okay, the short distance races. Even in that short distance races, the participants are thinning out. Today, we probably talk about Ese and Blessing Okagbari. After that, there's nobody again. So, you talk about football, you see that, for instance, next year now, the 3 continental championship in Africa, our men are not there. We are not in Nations Cup, we are not in under 17, we are not in under 20. So, even the under 17, where we are the current champions, we are not going there to defend. So something is obviously wrong.
All right. Now let's have an understanding, because you talked about the issue of participation and all of that. But what really determines a good outing out there when you're attending an international or you're partaking in an international tournament? Is it just lifting the gold that is the most successful of all, or there's something else that determines these people, or determines being part of a tournament?
Success is very relative. For a country like USA, Russia, Germany or China, winning a gold medal in football and then another gold medal in long jump and then bronze medal in any of the events in athletics is seen as an awful outing. But today, Nigeria celebrates that as its best outing. That was 1996. So that's why I said it's very relative. And it depends on your input. Your input also determines your output. In a situation whereby we put all our eggs in one basket, we are just concentrating on football and athletics, the popular sports. Whereas most countries that excel in the Olympic Games, they are all-rounder. As a matter of fact, football is relegated. That's why you don't see England as part of its stature, the Premiership and everything. You don't hear England talking about, or let's say Britain, talking about winning a gold medal in football. That is left for maybe countries like Nigeria, Brazil, and all those who are football crazy. But it is not that they don't like football. Football in the Olympic Games almost doubled the entire budget of the contingent, because you are dealing with about 23 players, their coaches and officials.
And they're going to pick only one medal.
They will struggle from the beginning to the last day of the Olympics, and it is just for just one medal. Whereas in some less popular sports, you can have one individual winning as many medals as 7 and at lower cost. So that's why I said success is very relative. It depends on what your goal is. And in our own case, we have no target, we have no vision. We just feel, let us go for these games just for the purpose of going, because we don't have a policy. In Abuja, they will tell you, oh, there's a sports policy. I said, a sports policy that is not known to the ordinary man, to the sports journalist, let alone, the ordinary man and the athletes, that policy is non-existent. in China, there's sports policy. You know that at a particular time, people must come out for physical exercise. People must come out to do this. And all natural endowments are well tapped. For instance, what stops us from, we have so centralized our sports organization, sports administration, sports participation, that even our natural endowments are no longer tapped. We have riverine areas where the means of movement from one point to the other is through canoe. Canoeing is an Olympic sport. Why are we not developing those people? And it's a way of even reducing militancy. That if I know that this thing that I do normally on daily basis, I can earn fame from it, I can earn money from it. Then it's just a matter of telling them the rule. This is how you hold your paddle when you are canoeing. If you do it like this, it's foul. If you do it like this, that's the right way. And before you know it, we are breeding future Olympians. And Olympic Games is not just something you start, because I heard the sports minister say, preparation for 2020 begins now. It is late. Preparation for 2024 begins now will have been more apt, because you don't prepare an Olympic champion within 4 years. It takes between 6 and 8 years. Those who are going to be world beaters in 2020, we already have the idea of who they are. The only thing we may not be able to say now is the complexion of the medal they are going to win.
All what we've been saying, that's why I started my question from the establishment of the Sports Commission itself in 1963 and their achievement. Are you saying the commission has outlived its purpose? Should it be scrapped? Should it be revamped? Should people who perhaps have better policy formulation credentials be put in place? What exactly is the problem?
The truth is that the commission has been scrapped. As at this moment, there's no National Sports Commission. We started as National Sports Council in 1963 and became National Sports Commission in 1970. It was prescribed by a decree in 1991, Decree 7 by the Babangida administration, Decree 7 of 1991. It came back during the era of Abacha, but that was probably by presidential proclamation. So it existed, and as at the time the National Sports Commission was existing, it has a board. It's not just the man who superintends the sports in Nigeria automatically becomes the National Sports Commission chairman. It has a board. They meet, they discuss policies, they plan, but that is not the situation that we are in now. It's just a situation that, okay, a sports minister doubles as National Sports Commission chairman. So that's the situation. But the Sports Commission, we need to go back to the foundation of that commission. Why was it established? It was established for so purpose. And if you look at the decree that established the National Sports Commission, the one of 1970, it stated the components, the armed forces, or what they call the discipline forces, the army, the navy, the police, and the air force. Then you have representative of the school sports and all those. So by the time these people come out with policies, there's no way we won't be able to move forward. Why should Nigeria not be taking part in shooting? If the armed forces is well represented in the National Sports Commission, they will have been able to, because the ordinary man in the street cannot just hold a gun and say, I'm practicing shooting. It's illegal. But if within the armed forces, we have people who are being trained in the art of shooting, air rifle competition and all those things, these people can be groomed as future Olympians for us. Then we know that we are expanding our scope of medal winning. But in a situation where we don't have such policies, things are just done on ad hoc basis. A minister can come today and say, I want to do this, I want to do that. By the time that minister goes, that whatever plans he has, because the plan were personal to him, it was they are not national policies. The incoming person will just put it aside and will do his own.
All right, so in that case, are we saying or establishing that the problem or the stagnation, like you established earlier on about sports, emanates from the haphazard or the inconsistency in administration?
Yes, exactly. Because everybody who is put into position to head our sports you don't even do a background check on that person to know whether that person is sports inclined.
Okay.
Because if that person is not sports inclined, if we have a minister who, upon getting to the office, the first thing he does is to start learning how to hold the ropes, start learning what sports is, what football is, and all those things, then by the time he will leave office, he will have left our sports worse than he met it. And don't forget, the sports ministry has the highest turnover of ministers. From 1999 till now, in space of 17 years, we've had close to 17 sports ministers in the country. And if you go back to the era of 1960, when we have JMJ as the first person to head our sports, then you are talking of almost between 45 and 49 sports ministers in the country, which is not good for us. Because what it means that everybody comes, will do whatever he feels like doing and go. There's no template. There's no.
But is there any way you can say, okay, for sports ministry, for instance, just have quite a couple, I mean, maybe 10 ministers or within a year or 5. That is not stipulated within the Nigerian constitution.
Yeah.
The cabinet can be reshuffled at any time. Do you think that's the
problem?
You
can even appoint a minister today, tomorrow you remove
Indeed.
it.
Maybe the issue
the discretion of the president.
Yeah. Maybe the issue now is to be sports policies be legislated and codified. So whoever comes has to follow what we have on ground.
Exactly. That's why I was talking about having a proper sports policy, whereby we know, I mean, on paper, people will tell you that, oh, in the universities, on Wednesday is sports day. But go and find out how many universities in the country have actually designated Wednesday for sports. As a matter of fact, some lecturers will deliberately fix their lecture time at the time people are supposed to be participating in sports. Woe betide you if you don't attend lectures. So, and it's because we don't have policies that can really be implemented. This thing should be put in black and white. We need to decentralize sports. We don't need to concentrate all sports federations in either Abuja or Lagos. Archery is something that is almost indigenous to the north. We have them using the bow and arrow. Why can't we say, okay, let us establish a federation for archery in the north? Look at all those people who won medals in equestrian sports, horsemanship. They are old people. Some of them are in their 60s, 70s. We have such people in Nigeria who like to ride horses.
All right, let me ask this question, because I was discussing with someone earlier on, and they were identifying the issue of the fact that sports, who determines what sports is introduced into Olympics? Africans have their own. In fact, there is this. There's the other one.
Yeah, traditional sports.
The traditional sports.
IU and all those things.
Exactly, the IU. They're wonderful things in Africa, but no one sees all those things at the level of Olympics. And then when you get to Olympics, you see new sports being introduced, and they're all from the Western countries and all of that. So how is Africa left out in that window?
It's because we don't develop our own natural sports. Every race has a sport that is indigenous to it. The Koreans introduced taekwondo, judo. All these are from Asia. By the time they codify it, there are rules for it, and then it becomes an international sport. IU, for instance, is just limited probably to the Southwest. But the white man introduced what is called Scrabble, introduced chess. Monopoly. They codified it. These are the rules. These are the ways you win. And they standardized it. They made it popular to everybody, and we adopt it. But in our own case, whatever we do, if somebody is playing now, you probably look down at that person and say, oh, this person looks primitive. But that is because we have not codified our sports. We have not made even our local sports popular. In Bayelsa, wrestling is very popular. But we have not done anything consciously as a nation to see that, okay, let us lift that aspect of sports so that it can fetch us medals. We can be dominant in that way. The situation is that Nigeria is, as a country, as a country loving sports in the world and in the continent, there is no area of sports where we dominate now. Some years back, when you talk of table tennis, it's Nigeria. Egypt have brushed that aside. Before, when you talk of the short and middle distance races, it's Nigeria. But now we are nowhere to be found.
Okay, if you look at the history of Nigeria and the number of ministers you've railed out now, was there any particular period where we had it good? And who was in charge? Perhaps what did that minister, what did he do or didn't do that made that a period memorable for Nigeria?
I think I can mention two sports ministers. One is the late Ikazobo. He had this policy of decentralizing sports. Before, all sports federations congregated at the National Stadium, Abuja. He said, well, why don't we move them out to areas where those sports are strong? For instance now, archery, if you put it in Lagos, how many people use bow and arrow? That federation will just die a natural death. But if you put it in Kaduna, somewhere in the north, where the sports is popular, they have the base to at least scout for talents and pick their talents. But here, we see sports as just a political tool. Then that was Ikazobo. And within months of his coming up with that idea, he was removed from sports and posted to the Ministry of Transport. Then another person that I see that has vision for our sports was Bolaji Abdullahi. For political reasons, he was also shoved aside. So these are two sports ministers that at least I felt their impact and I share their vision.
So in summary, at what year or what tournament will you say that Nigeria performed the most since independence?
Well, you could say the 1996 gold medal feat of our football team. But don't forget, that was our national team. It's not just the under 23. Because there is nobody in that team that was not in the Super Eagles. And that was why in 1998, when the world was actually anticipating a clash of the current World Cup holders and the Olympic champion. That will have been the first time the two of them will meet if we had been able to scale the hurdle posed by Denmark. It will have been Nigeria versus Brazil in the quarterfinal of 1998 Olympics.
That's France 98.
France 98.
All right, Kunle Solaja, thank you very much for coming on the program.
You are welcome.
Thank
it's
you very
always a
much.
pleasure to be
All right,
here.
and this is where we end this segment right now. But however, we're going out on TVC Entertainment. The viewers there can continue with the program on TVC Breakfast, TVC Nigeria on Concert Channel 190 and DSTV Channel 418.
Go TV 45 and ACTV 510. Let's continue the conversation there.